Hi, welcome to the Ron and Son podcast. This is Clinton.
And this is Ron.
Welcome to episode 8. It's been a little bit.
Yeah, boy, but I'm glad to be here tonight. You know, because it's a couple of weeks there, it was touch and go. But now we're just touching. But don't go. Don't touch me. Yeah. Okay.
This guy.
No. But yeah, I had some toothaches, and you had some...
I got an oil change.
An oil change, we'll call it.
Yeah, I went to the surgeon, and they did me up right.
Right. So
Thankful for our health care here.
Right. So everything's go. And a lot of times we take care of something that we haven't taken care of for a while, and it's on our minds, and then to know exactly what the end result is, it's always a good idea, especially when it turns out good. It's just a big relief.
You know, for the discussion, I'm just going to bring out that I wanted to take care of this situation last summer, and I was unable to because elected surgeries were postponed until, we're in March. So it took that long to get the health care that we were all used to. So that was an interesting experience to have to wait and wonder. I had positive results. Everything's great, so I can't complain. I'm very thankful. But if there's other people that might have had to wait, and it could have been really bad if they had.
Right. I know when the COVID first hit, I had some issues with my thyroid, and we wanted to do a biopsy. They couldn't do it, so they went in. They were going to take it out, and I had thyroid cancer, but it took me 10 months. 10 months to get in there from the first time I talked to the doctor to the end. And it's the system's kind of questioned and stuff, how they prioritize things and what's going on and early intervention. And that's our HMOs. You know, a lot of them, they're dealing with a lot of people, a lot of dollars, the statistics and those kinds of things. And we're just not getting the services like we used to get, I think.
You know, one of the services I actually got tonight is I had this sausage. I was trying to offer Dad because if you eat them, you get extremely bad gas. So I was going to time it, give it to him right before the podcast and see what happens. So, of course, I have to take a bite of one. I mean, you can't bust out some sausages and not try it out.
Yeah. I was afraid of getting diarrhea. That's why I didn't have any.
But would you like to share what you talked about the whole time I munched on this piece of sausage?
Oh, well... Foster Farms, they provide a lot of chicken and stuff and like that. And I used to work in employment security. I went in through one of their facilities where these chickens come in trucks that are in cages that look like they're half dead when they get there because they've gone through the wind and at 60 miles an hour and the feathers are flying. Really traumatic. And so they, it's a whole bad thing. It's bad for me when I'm driving behind them, and and
we gotta
it's
eat,
a bad
man.
thing. Well,
we gotta eat.
We gotta do it in a humane way, and then
that's totally that's chickens.
Yeah, well, they're shocking them to death. They're taking their carcasses on the ceiling, wrapping them around, and then sawing off parts, and they're dropping onto tables, and it's just like a bad movie. It's what it was like.
You sound traumatized, just a little bit traumatized from the event.
Well, I think the thing I found out was the good meat, the scrap meat was going to like the cats and the dogs, and they're taking all the gross stuff that came out of the chicken and they're putting it into totes and sending it to Portland to make hot dogs.
So the cats and the dogs, were they just inside this facility eating the good meat?
No, but they were getting better pieces of meat than what was going into the hot dogs.
Are we talking about your dogs?
Not my dogs. No, my dogs, they get the better meat. They're not getting the carcass meat and stuff like that. So
you go through the pressure cooker. You do feed your dogs a lot of chicken, though, and you're having an issue with how the chickens... were processed, but that's a big part of your dog's diet. And your dogger's diet right here, chickens.
Right. Well, chicken's actually, low in fat, and it's an affordable meat, and it grows rapidly. I just don't want it full of hormones, and antibiotics when I'm eating it because it really causes problems. I started growing hair under my armpits again. And after you get so old, sometimes you don't grow hair there. So I was eating all this chicken, and I figured there was hormones in it because I started getting hair in places I never had for a while.
Speaking of hair in places you haven't had in a while, one beneficial part of getting my oil changed is I didn't, I haven't had to shave.
Well, it just depends on, I guess, where they went to check your oil.
Well, let's say that I didn't have a hernia, so I'm thankful on that one.
Right. Well, that's good.
Well, let's move on to your story that you have about Grandma Joni, Grandma Joan Mullins. She was your mom, my grandma. Obviously, I lived with her for quite a while and became one of my best friends at one point, and just an amazing person. But she had superpowers, like a superhuman, like some weird stuff going on, and I think it'd be interesting to hear some of those stories from your childhood dealing with that.
Yeah. Mom was a different lady altogether and stuff, and full of love. And I think she loved me more than anything in the whole world. I was her life. I was her only son. So out of all the boys, she just loved me the most. But we had a close relationship, and we were able to talk, because I talked to her even when I left her. I left home when I'd work. I'd talk to her on my lunch hour and stuff on the phone and stuff. And Mom had lost a leg. She became blind, but she never gave up. But before all this, she had all these turbulent or things that happened in her life. She told me about where she'd go downtown and then she'd see somebody, but then she knew that they were going to pass in like within the next 10 to 14 days. And she had dealt with that throughout her whole life. And I believe it was the truth, because my grandma had told me stories about things that she had done and stuff like that, but it was kind of like passed on. And how would you feel, and how would that make you feel when you see somebody and now you get this certain sensation and then you know they're going to pass? So what if you're close to that person that you saw? It's just not a stranger. And to have that information before it happens, what a load to take, So she dealt with that. And I think a lot to be said about that and how that worked. And I don't fully understand, but I believe it happened. And but it's people. Some people can receive messages that other people can't. And they're in tune to different vibrations and those kinds of things. The other story I like to say about my mom was when I was a young man or still in high school, and that I really caused a lot of issues for my parents in reference to the things that I did and where I'd go and how I did them and that kind of stuff. But myself, and three other gentlemen, we had broke down in our car, and we broke down probably 38 miles from where I'd lived. And there's many roads going in all kinds of directions and stuff. And then it was real cold. So we ran the car. It was like a Jeep and stuff like that. And then we all fell asleep, and like we're getting fumigated. When you're fumigated and you're asleep, you don't know what's going to happen. It's happening until you wake up and you know you're sick. And my mom shows up and knocks on the window and wakes us all up. She drove right to where we were, 38 miles from her house. And I'm thinking, wow, how did she know where we were? How did she know that we were in danger? And those kinds of things. And she just knew. So I don't know if she'd been there before or how she was able to see it. Those were kind of hard things to understand. In how that happens. And some people can see it more than others. One other experience, and I don't know if there's probably other people too that's had this, and I call them flashes. And they're times of life when you feel something that goes through your body and goes completely out. And it just happens. It's like just instant. It's just like bang, and it hits you. And it's almost like some being or some other type of energy has forcefully crossed your path and has entered you and then gone out to the other side.
I've had that happen.
You've had that happen.
Oh yeah. That story I talked about where I was going through the crossroads from into Mississippi. I mean, that was totally that kind of situation when I talked about that in one of our previous episodes.
Yeah. So those are experiences. A lot of times those things will happen in near life situations where if it can go one way or the other. And it's almost like we're guarded in a certain sense. I've had it where I had a flash when I was probably like in my 20s, where it felt like a car went right through me, and I was on the highway. Whether I thought I fell asleep or whether it was an illusion, but I felt it go through my body, and then I come back, and I'm here. That was strange, with that happening and stuff. But I think there's other people that have the same things. And maybe at those times, those things happen, our guardian angel came, and it wasn't our time to not experience the things we still need to experience. So we got to stay another day. So I wasn't taken where I could have been taken prior to that. So I guess those are the three things. I think it was 3 or 4 that I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about. Maybe you have somebody that that's able to see things that others can't see, and then they try to explain. A lot of people keep it to themselves, what they see, because they don't know. It's kind of like, one thing was I was telling Clint tonight was I was walking down the sidewalk, and a guy goes, Mr. Mullins, are you Mr. Mullins? And I go, yeah. And the guy's about 75 feet away, and he's in this pickup, and I think he's with his dad. He goes, do you believe in aliens? And I go, yeah. He says, have you seen any aliens? And I go, yes. And the kid jumps out of his car and starts raising his head and says, I saw him too. And it just felt like he didn't think he was crazy then. And his dad's there because I think he's told his story, but people kind of questioned it. And when he was able to see me and stuff, he was able to respond to that. And I was thinking, boy, I felt like I was part of his life. So I always thought that was cool. That was a good experience today.
That's a great story experience. So that is, I really believe in all that. I believe that people have a knowing of things. And if you're connected to somebody in a certain way, there's kind of a way that when things are going on or stuff happens. Sometimes you just get that knowing, and that's something either I'm just blessed with in this family, but I've always felt that. I don't think that we can go on, and do an episode without bringing up the current events of the world. I know we talked about that, and things have been a lot different since we talked about that. And in regards to countries having wars on each other and seeing a lot of violence, and you can look at it on just about any screen in front of you right now, from your TikTok on your phone, YouTube, to your television. It's pretty much everywhere. We haven't really seen this kind of experience where it's been like in the past, there was news, the Iraqi war and all that, but you didn't have the first-hand account from the social media that is really easy to be available. And it's hard. It's hard to watch all the people losing their life for whatever pointless reason of power or whatever it is. I don't understand it, but we definitely are rooting for Ukraine over here. I know I am.
Yeah, I am too. And what's happening, war crimes against civilians, where they're targeting housing, where nobody's done anything wrong. And I think what we're seeing now is it's a war that was one-sided. It was like no one was doing anything wrong. Nothing had harmed nobody. And all of a sudden there's this invasion and this killing going on. And we're sitting back, and what are we doing? Well, most of the world, even though we put in our embargo, today, supposedly, we only take in 2%. But if you took Italy and you took Australia, they take 100% of their oil and crude, and Germany takes 40%. Are they going to continue buying their oil and crude? Are they going to support humanity, or is it what's going to run their countries? So there's some real questions that are being made, and it's financial. A lot of it has to do with money, part of this war. Who makes the war machines? Who pays for the bullets? Those kinds of things. Why are we killing people? It just doesn't make any sense at all. And I've gone through a lot of different actions in the past, from Vietnam to now, and places and stuff, but nothing was seen anything like this. You know, there was no where one country's doing something bad to the other country, and then there's a retaliation. It was one-sided that started the whole effect, and it had to do with taking away freedoms of people. You know, for what they decided, they wanted to be their own country.
You know, and you mentioned the not buying oil from them. I just don't feel like that's enough. I feel like like anybody in the position that's going to do something like that, they're going to have their stuff together. They're going to have their stockpile of ammo, and it's not going to be financed on the fly. It's going to be all worked out and already ready to go. Or you're just crazy if that's what they're doing. But I really feel like the only way that we can either sit back, or our government can sit back and watch it happen, which sucks because that's what pretty much the world is doing, besides aiding with supplies, or figure out a way to end it. And, you know, however that is, I think would be a better outlook than right now.
We can't run scared, because if it happens there, it's going to happen at the next country, the next country, and the next country, and then we'll all become where we're not free. It starts right now, where we have to do something. And you got the nuclear button being questioned. Anyone that gets involved with this, our action against, you know, Ukraine, it can also be, we can take the nuclear bomb to you. So there's some real issues, because after they cut down the banking system, where they closed it off, and now you're not able to access your monies and stuff, and that's getting people uptight. The ruble has dropped. So finance, and the people in the country itself of Russia has a lot of unrest. They don't agree with what's going on. Most of Russia are all good people. It's not but it's the leadership that we're looking at. They don't want to see what's going on. We've had things happen that we're not proud of too, you know, but as a people as a whole, we're all equal, and we need to work for the best, to work together to resolve the issue and stop having the loss of life in this area, and start looking for a way to resolve this, you know, either internally or externally, and resolve it as quickly as possible, because it can't be tolerated.
I agree. I really agree. So hopefully, you know, next time we come on, we're talking about this whole situation being something that's in the past. I really hope that they can come up with some kind of situation and not be the never-ending 20-year Iraqi war or whatever that was we all had to sit through. But anyways, that stuff's not any fun to talk about, but you got to talk about it.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to job ideas. And my dad has a really, really awesome job idea that I'm actually thinking about doing. I'm currently working on my doctorate of education, leadership, and organizations degree. I have a master's of education, and I don't have a lot of teaching experience, but that's something that I'm actually really interested in doing. And I've volunteered at schools, but I've never been paid for it. So what better way to get your feet wet in teaching than being a substitute teacher?
Right. Yeah. One thing about it is, wherever we live in this country, we live next to a public school of some kind or another. And if it's not very close, you're going to have homeschooling anyway, but you're going to be schooled. But we're talking about the public school system as a whole.
I might school you at some Madden, though. You know, you're going to be schooled.
Yeah, we're all being schooled and stuff. You know what? And as I talk to my students too, we're so blessed today to be at school and not be like where we were at the first of COVID, and we're home, we're separated, we're hungry, we're depressed, and now we came back to our friends, and we're looking for joy and to catch up on our education. And I see a real coming together as the students come together, relearning, manners, but those kinds of things, but also what the norms are now in this moving on society that we have. And it's a lot of pressure to be a kid or a young man or woman at any age. But they're going under a lot of pressure, and especially when you isolated them, a lot of them couldn't make it. So it was really too bad, but I'm glad we're coming back. And actually in the state of Washington, Friday is the key day when masks come off. So Monday, the first day of school, in the state of Washington, no masks unless it's your choice to wear one. So that's caused a lot of issues within our schools. But I'm glad we moved that. And the people who want to wear a mask can still wear one. The people that don't. And some people will always wear a mask.
I'm not going to wear a mask, and I haven't been for a while.
Yeah. I like to read the lips. I might wear a mask in the part. Depends on who I'm around and how many people. So, and the distances and how my room's configured and those kinds of things. I want a lot of ventilation.
I smile a lot, so when I get that nervous smile, I kind of do like wearing the mask because I can make any face behind the mask, and you can't tell what kind of face I'm making. So sometimes, like in public, if I'm wearing a mask, I'll make like a funny face. But what's going to happen when the masks come off is I'm still going to make that funny face, and I'm a little worried about it.
Oh, well, yeah. That's when they start taking looks into consideration, and we have to have a second choice there because, that's when the good people got one up on us. The good-looking ones.
You're saying I'm not good looking.
Well, I don't know what's good looking. Depends on what someone thinks. Beauty's in the beholder. So I could look about like anything and be just like, oh, yeah, baby. Here we go.
Oh, yeah, baby. Here we go.
Yeah.
You just said that.
Yeah. I don't know where we're going to go, but we're ready for a job. Okay. Let's get back to the school thing because we're kind of weird off to a really weird area.
I can edit that out.
Yeah. We're going to edit that out. Okay. Well, that'll be good. So, school districts have substitutes for multiple positions, from a custodian to a bus driver to paraeducators, cooks, dishwashers, substitute teachers, psychologists, social workers, nurses. They all have a substitute positions. Now, in bigger school districts, they have more employees. Smaller districts have less. So, but what there is there's a shortage of substitutes within our educational system. So what do you do? Okay, first off is whatever job that you're interested in, from being a teacher to being a paraeducator or a dishwasher, you want to make sure you meet the minimum requirements of what those are. And they have a website that you'll go through. And the website that you'll see will actually where you'll submit all of your documentation proving who you are. If there's college credits, the credits you receive, the degrees that you have, you'll need 3 references, and you'll have to also agree to a reference check. And in the state of Washington, as of today, you have to be vaccinated. Okay, any person that works for the state of Washington in healthcare, education, those kinds of things has to be vaccinated or the state won't pay.
Even if you have some kind of letter from your doctor?
Very few people have made it through that, especially when it gets to the school districts and that. Some school districts in some areas are more conservative than others, and some will, even though that the Department of It, like a superintendent of schools, may have said, if you don't meet this requirement, well, we won't give you funding. So the question is whether or not it's a Democratic state or a Republican state might depend on whether or not they would fund you or not. It shouldn't get down to politics, but that's basically what it is at this point. So if you're in a Democratic state, you probably couldn't go. If you're in a Republican state, I'm pretty sure that they've worked through it. So that's 50-50 of the country and stuff. So let's talk about education as a teacher. They have an emergency certificate in which you can get, and all you have to do is submit your educational background, and that would be all the classes you took and all the documentation, and you load that onto their program. You fill it all out, you get 3 references, and then you go to the school districts and where you want to work. Okay, and you'll ask for an interview with usually the principal. Is usually who they want you to talk to, because do you want to work in a grade school? Do you want to work in a high school, a middle school? Do you want to work with special education? Do you want to do some kind of a trade? What kind of a school do you want to work with? Number one, that's mostly has to do with age groups more than subject matter. So you define that. Once you define that, then they will submit a letter to the superintendent of schools saying that they request you to be an emergency substitute teacher. and here's your certificates. And then they set you up with a fingerprinting, which is, if it's done by the state, it's about $80. It can be anywhere from 45 to 100, depends on which state you're from. Then there's about another $45 to $48 fee having to do with administrative costs and that. If you do the emergency certificate, you can get all this completed in usually about 12 days. If you go, there's a backlog that they're going through, and things aren't as fast as they used to be. And the backlog, if you just go through the normal process, could take up to 2.5 to 3 months. That's where you don't go solicit the schools. You don't have a job lined up. I always like, when I'm going to do something, I want to know what I'm going to do and who I'm going to do it with before I even decide to do it. So that's the reason why I like to go talk to the schools and stuff, and whether or not I want to work with those people that are at the school. Maybe there's a different educational philosophy I can't fit with. I want to make sure that people I work with is going to be fun. So I kind of like to do that part up front. What an opportunity. It pays well for what it is. You can pick the days you want to work, and you can pick the days you don't want to work. You don't have to work anytime you don't want to work, and you don't have to have an excuse that you don't want to work. Now, this goes with custodians. Can do the same thing. There's a big demand for paraeducators, and a paraeducator is someone that has a high school diploma or a GED, can come into the school and be a paraeducator. And I've seen some paraeducators that teach the pants off of me. I mean, they're so good with the kids, and they really care. And it wasn't the degree that made them good. It was who they were, and their ability to be able to express how to translate education or thought processes to one individual to another. And they just match up. And some of them are just like, it was just, I just sat there and watched some of them, and I just totally enjoyed it like a movie. Just the way they were able to interrelate. And when someone does their job really good, that's the way it should be. Because it's not really a job. They're having fun, and you can just see it, and everybody's attracted to it at the same time. So that's what I liked about paraeducators. It kind of dropped it down a little bit, where you still get paid really well. You get paid usually higher than what your medium range of wages are for whatever area you live in. Because it's important, because you got the top asset of the community is our children. And that's what's in your control. So you get paid a little bit more for that. And that's why we need a background check to make sure who you are, that you're not going to be abusive, and those kinds of things. We have the same thing for the cooks, or dishwashers, bus drivers, same type of process. And that's a good way to get your foot in the door. I was just saw where I got a notice where they were training individuals 25 and older to be school bus drivers, and they'd pay you during the training with no prior experience. And that's open here in our local community, but it's also open throughout, the United States, because they're having trouble getting bus drivers. Because that's you got to be really responsible. You got to count for every kid that's on the bus and make sure that they're safe and they're treating each other respectively and following the rules, and everyone's being safe, and everybody gets home and picked up and taken where they needed to go. So there's a lot of good jobs that are out there. And it's a way to get your foot in the door. If you start substituting, and all of a sudden you say, no, I don't like that. Well, then you don't have a full-time job, and you don't have to worry about that and put them through that, time of training you and stuff like that. You got a flavor of it to see whether or not you like it or not. But if you like it and you do a good job, you'll be the first one to be hired when they start hiring full-time people if you want to go. So I've had people ask me about full-time. I'm not interested in full-time, but I just enjoy going when I want to go, and doing what I want to do. And that's one of the few jobs that you can actually have where I consider myself self-employed, even though I work for the school district, because I make up my own time when I go to work. And if I don't want to work this week, I'm not going to get fired, because I don't have to work this week. I don't have to work next week. I might want to work one day in the next month, and I want to work 3 weeks the next month. I can do those things. And you can do that with anything. And the bigger the school district, the bigger the need, because it's hard for people. A lot of people, they won't fill out the paperwork. So if you do the paperwork and you follow the process and you can do the background check, this is a good opportunity to get your foot in the door. And it's not as competitive as a lot of jobs that are out there. I can get in there with my mug, with my mask off. So that's pretty good that way too. And then I enjoy just doing something and challenging myself to do it. And if you haven't done it before and you think, well, hey, this might be an experience I like to experience. So here, so some of us want to work in the kitchen, And I always liked I remember one of my first jobs was working in a nursing home, and the worst part was washing the dishes, after they got all the stuff in the plates and stuff. But I used to have to make the eggs and toast.
You know why I was bald for a minute when I had my bar and grill? I was bald. I cut my hair all
Bald?
off. Yeah, I shaved my head.
Okay, I didn't want to ask. Okay, we'll go with the head.
Okay, he was going somewhere totally south on that one. But what I'm getting at is working in the kitchen, there's a lot of grease, and that grease gets in your hair. I had to chop my hair off, and that's got to be one of the hardest jobs ever because of the grease, being in that one little spot the whole time, maybe not having exact time to take as many breaks as you probably should be taking.
Yeah, the stuff under your fingernails. It reminds me of the guy when I went through Burger King to take in the money. His hair looked like the VO5 guy on Sunset Strip, but it was just like greased back and long. And I'm going, boy, I wonder what the stove looks like after seeing the guy that took my money.
I'll tell you what, your hair gets really greasy working behind a grill.
Oh yeah.
Or in the French fry grill. It just,
and French fries.
We've had our oil spill out of the thing a few times where it was just, you go back there and it was everywhere, and that was no fun to clean. So I think that was a great job, like being a substitute teacher. And I'm going to give it a try, I think, eventually.
I think you do good at substitute teaching, and I enjoy substitute teaching. But usually, I enjoy about anything I do. I try to find out what's fun about it and get as much as I can out of it. And so, one thing I do like doing is I always have a quote of the day, and I have a story to tell. And me and my stories, and I learned that a lot of times I got to wait to the end of class to tell my story because the kids get so excited and stuff. It's hard to calm them down after I tell them one of my stories. But as long as, these are true stories. And, it's just like having Helen Keller right there at their footsteps. So
Speaking of cool stories, I'm going to tell a little story next. So Gabular, the return of Gabular. We played our first show at the Plaid Pig in Tacoma on March 5th, and it was super awesome. We played with Kira Michelle. She was the opener, fabulous singer-songwriter. And then Deadbeat Blackout was the headliner, and we had a really good turnout. It sounded really good, and I'm stoked to play some more shows with them. And I'm going to take this time to do a little shout out for my new band, Atabomb. We're going to be performing at Tony V's in Everett on March 18th. And we're playing with Painfield and a couple other bands. And it's going to be all ages, bar with ID. Again, that's March 18th. So come up and check us out. I'm not really sure when the show starts, but you can find me on Facebook and figure that out, or go to Tony V's. Just Google the Tony V's in Everett on your phone. And they have good food. They have, it's probably like the Louis G's. Kind of how Louis G's was. I played there before. It's a phenomenal spot, really cool stage. And sad to say, but it's one of the last music venues left that's like a big music venue. A lot of them are just not open like it was before, and that's a hard post-COVID reality. And I think that's another opportunity is for a music venue or for a bar and grill during this time. I know with gas prices and whatnot coming up, people are going to be spending less money out and having to make changes to what they do. But I think that that's a good opportunity because everybody needs entertainment, and no matter what gas prices are or however life is, people are going to go to a bar and grill, order a restaurant, and pay for the services. That's just something people do.
It sounds like to me like a good Italian restaurant. With a name like that, and the food, it's just, I can just put my mouth in it, what it sounds like. But just that name just kind of like, yeah, it gives a bite.
Yeah, it's a great spot. So come out and check us out. It's going to be a good show. And I feel like we should just get right into it. You probably see the emblem down in the middle here. The Seattle Seahawks have had a lot of changes today, and we want to talk a little bit about it. I'm not a huge sports fan, but I realize that other people are. And so this is one of those other people.
Yeah.
Ron's into it.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I come home, and it's like there was no Christmas. They took it away. I've been a Seahawk guy from the beginning. You know, Jack Patera running around Lake Quinault, you know, and just the craziness of it all. And then today, Russell Wilson goes back to where he kicked their ass for the Super Bowl, and now he's a Bronco. Well, I guess we're going to see him this year. I guess we're playing the Broncos, but I didn't think he'd be wearing an orange suit, you know, and terrible. And then a double kicker was in the stomach. The same day that Russell Wilson came to be a Seahawk, we also had Bobby Wagner show up. One of the top middle linebackers in the whole NFL, and they kicked him to the road today. Same day. You know, it was about 60 minutes before I came over for the podcast. And I couldn't believe it, all over money, you know. But even more than that, it was like they kicked it in like, hey, we're giving it up, we're restructuring, we're getting rid of all you high-priced people, and we don't care if we're going to win. We're looking for dollars. So they banked him. The other news I hear also is it looks like Metcalf has been offered up to the Jets for a first-round 10th pick in the draft. So whether or not the Seahawks take it, they're working on that. That's what the offer is that's out there. They're giving up the whole team, you know. What can we do, you know? First, I felt like sadness and cry, and I know it's not my team, and I can't support it. I think they should have actually kept Wilson and got rid of Carroll, but they chose to keep the staff and the general management in place because they're the closest to the owners, so they probably have a closer relationship personally. So how do we salvage it? Well, there's a few things we do. We did get a few things for Russell Wilson. It looks like he wasn't going to be around. What happened was several years ago, the coaches went and watched Allen, he plays for Buffalo, the quarterback, and they kind of looked at him. They were really interested in him as a quarterback. And that's when Russell kind of like, hey, what are you doing looking at him when you got me and I've won a Super Bowl? That started the infection when that happened. So they moved on over the years. And then he made it vocal last year. He's tired of getting beat up. He wants to continue to work. Can't you get somebody that would sit in front of me so that I don't take so many hits? No, he got the shit beat out of him. Worse than probably what he got. Maybe it's because he spoke up. So it became worse. He got hit more, you know, took him out of the game. What happened was he realized that he's a man and the game can stop at any moment. And his moments with Seattle were done. When was the last time Seattle actually drafted anybody that was worthwhile? They probably got the worst record in picking people who are good coming out of college than any other team in the NFL. Worst management that way. They're looking for dollars. They end up getting players that are from other teams that are expendable now. We're getting, even though those players are good, they're not good enough to get you to the Super Bowl. Oh, that's what we're worried about, and that's what we want. We want the ring. We just don't want to play games, win one, lose one, win one, lose one. We're here to win the whole thing. So they're not set that way. They're looking for profit in the stadium is what's happened. There's a couple things that I'm predicting I hope could happen. Maybe the Seahawks can now, since they don't have a quarterback, they got the quarterback back from Denver. They got a defensive lineman. They got a tight end, which is pretty good. They got 2 first-round draft picks, 2 second-round draft picks, and a 5th-round draft pick. The first round draft pick and the second year draft pick are in 1 year. The next year they have another first round draft pick and a second round draft pick. So it takes 2 years to get your revenues back. But they loosen up, 20-some million dollars when they get rid of him. Wilson, they assume his contract. So there they loosened up some money. Bobby Wagner, they couldn't get nobody to buy it. So they ended up kicking him to the road and paying him, $9 million. And they ended up saving $16,100,000 to kick him to the road and get nothing of a number one, back. And why didn't they go out and try to shop him longer than now? This is early. Why did you send him to the road, without being able to find a home for him or get something back, or see if you can renegotiate his contract instead of being disrespectful and just saying goodbye, Bobby? He's been here for 10 years. That isn't the way you leave. And people are upset. There's some other players that they might be able to get if they want to win, but do they want to win is the question. Barkley's available in the Giants. You can get another good running back. You're going to need some running backs if you're going to run. I understand that they're considering that they want Penny back, but the Seahawks aren't going to, if someone wants to have him, they're not going to outbid him because he's been injured and stuff. But he was the number one back the last four games of the year, but he's been so injured that they don't want to put their hat on it. Carson's just got off neck surgery. Do you think he's going to go? It's pretty hard to come back from a neck surgery and actually play. And this is a rough game and stuff. Or, which might happen, is Seattle just is all in this year, and they're going for draft picks additional for next year also. So if they actually finish at the bottom of the heap, they'll end up getting better draft picks. They'll be able to pick and get better first-round players that they never be able to get before because they played so bad, and then try to rebuild their team using the least amount of dollars possible by still making a profit for their company. I don't know if this is the last day I'm going to wear my hat or not, but I know it's a sad day to remember. And it's a day that I don't know. It's kind of like how I lost the Sonics. I heard the Sonics are coming back, but it looks like the Seahawks are up for sale. They're selling everything. What is the next thing they're going to sell? Is it the franchise? They're selling out the players. Ask yourself, anything's possible now with the Seahawks. It is.
That was pretty powerful. I love your ending there.
Yeah. Bad news. Bad news, Charlie. Yeah, it's gone.
There goes the hat. There goes the Seahawks, I guess.
Yeah.
And you were pretty emotional about that. I felt
Right.
That was real.
It was real. It was bad. It was kind of like, I didn't think it would be that way. But I also thought Russell Wilson and them could come to some reason. But actually, he got tired of getting beat up and not being listened to. And he's always played second fiddle trying to prove who he is. And he doesn't have to prove anything. I think he was a great man. And I hope he's still involved in Seattle with the children's, and he's got the school. Hopefully they'll still keep some connections in our community. But we really lost more than just a football player. We lost a hero.
Yeah, he is a great community member, and that's like probably the biggest loss for the King County. But honestly, besides going there for band practice or playing a few shows, I kind of avoid King County.
Well, yeah, it's got some issues and stuff, but I think every community needs something to root for, whether they go there or not. And I think that's what the Seahawks give to the Pacific Northwest. It's something positive, something good to talk about, something that, where we can all get behind. Because there's not a lot of stuff that we can really get behind and support nowadays.
Reason to drink a beer and have a barbecue.
Yeah, or have a barbecue and find a beer. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think I want no beer anyway. But I'd go to the barbecue. I like corn. Maybe some, I used to like my Costco hot dogs from that chicken, from Foster Farms. And then I start thinking about the chicken when I was eating the hot dog, and sometimes I couldn't finish my hot dog.
Yeah, you ruined my sausage pre.
Yeah. Those black specks were beaks. It wasn't spices, I told him. Yeah,
he
crunchy.
told me so much. A lot of it went out like a drain, like a strainer.
Yeah.
I couldn't capture it all. There was so much coming at once.
Yeah.
So this has been episode 8, which is pretty awesome. We took a couple weeks off. I know a few people reached out, and I appreciate that, and voiced that they really look forward to watching this on Sundays. So we're going to try our best to have it on every Sunday. Life happens sometimes. We also are planning on doing a few extras, so when that happens in the future, we'll be able to throw one up there.
Yeah, I'm going to bring an extra shirt or a coat, and I'll surprise you. You won't even know it was an extra show. I learned that from Whoopi.
I'll be wearing this Whoopi. Yeah, she's a crazy one.
Yeah, I don't know. I called out to Whoopi. Whoopi. You can come over anytime. We can talk about anything you want. But you know what? You know how to get a hold of us.
If Whoopi Goldberg saw this episode, she would try to counsel us.
Yeah.
And
actually, she probably got a lot to say, and I could do a lot of listening because I could learn a lot from what she had, I think. And she spent any time, I even cut my eyebrows like hers.
If she was here, you just might have to find an extra co-host. I would just dip out on that one.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can handle the hour of listening to her.
Oh, yeah. She's okay. She's cool. She calls it the way it is. So, but yeah. Hey, go on. If you get another box of crackers.
I actually prefer Whoopi Goldberg in like one of those old movies, like where she was a nun or something like that. I don't prefer the View Whoopi.
Oh, Sally Fields. Well, that was the best show I've seen in a long time. The Flying Nun. I used to watch that as a kid.
The Flying Nun.
Yeah, The Flying Nun with Sally Fields. Boy, she was, what a woman when I was a kid, too. She could fly anywhere she wanted, and she was able to, she helped everybody with every problem they had. So she helped Burt Reynolds out. So,
Oh, I'm sure she did. You said, what a woman. She really helped Burt Reynolds out.
They were they had a connection and stuff. So lucky for her, But she took her wings and left.
Are you bummed that it wasn't you getting Burt Reynolds?
No, I didn't want Burt Reynolds at all. No.
He's a pretty sexy dude.
No, he's not he's gone now. So you need to be respectful.
You're going to say he wasn't your type.
No, he was in a black Trans Am when I think about him with the cowboy hat, chewing on a toothpick. And what happened was I tried that and I lost my tooth right there. It came right out and popped out. That toothpick just popped. So I don't chew with toothpicks no more. It actually didn't fall out from a toothpick. It was a corn nut.
I'm lost.
That was after I tried to crack a walnut. But then I lost all these. But it worked out. Well, what else is going on? So,
wow.
I think that's about it.
That was pretty wild toothpick talk. So thanks for tuning in to episode 8. I would like to take this chance just to say thank you to everybody that's been leaving comments. I'd love to hear more comments about your experiences. And
the sponsors, I'd like to thank every one of you for sponsoring. And we need more of it, just like what we've had, and even more of that than that. So to all you sponsors, you're number one. Thank you for helping us with the show.
Whoever our sponsors are, thank you very much. This is the Ron and Son podcast. I'm Clinton.
And I'm Ron.
Until next time.
Sign in and be a sponsor. Bye.